Hello, hello, hello. Today, we're fletching some arrows. I've got no clue how to do it. Jeff has a lot of clues how to do it, and he's got the stuff to do it. So we're gonna hop into his little hidden shed back here that I don't know what he calls it, but we're gonna head back there and we're gonna fletch some arrows. Then after we finish fletching the arrows, we're gonna start putting my bow together. So yeah, here we go.
I hit him perfect. I hit him absolutely perfect.
Running and gunning, and I think that's the only way we can do that.
Big old main smallmouth there. Caught it on a drop shot from about 28 foot of water.
The first 15 minutes.
Let's head on back to the Dungeness cave. Oh, look at that. We found a Dungeness Jeff.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to my Dungeness.
So for today's project, we need 1 dozen arrows.
Check.
We need fletchings.
Check. Of whatever color you want.
Any color.
Yep.
What color do we have today?
You have black and white.
I'm going to be doing 2 blacks, 1 white for each arrow. We personally are doing wraps where the fletchings go.
So you got white.
Yep.
I usually use a blaze red. Kind of looks like orange, but it's a little bit different.
Yep.
And then you need the inserts, which come with your arrows anyway. All we're going to use is some rubbing alcohol to prep where we're going to put the inserts and the vanes themselves. For the glue, I just use Gorilla Super Glue. They make adhesive specific to the archery world, but this is easier to get and it works just as good, I think. And then a 5-minute epoxy is what I use to actually glue the inserts in. And luckily for Jordan, he's got a draw length the size of a gorilla, so we don't actually have to cut the arrows at all. Otherwise, you'd have to go to an archery shop probably to get them cut down. Some websites, you can actually order them for a little bit more money to a specific length. I'm not sure if Black Eagle is like that or not, but we don't have to cut them down, so it's just gonna be gluing. Perfect.
Sweet.
So first things first, I'm gonna do the inserts, get them glued in. So we gotta prep the arrows with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. And all I do, a little bit of rubbing alcohol, just put a Q-tip in here and just clean the inside of that arrow. You'll see all that blackness. The more of that you can get off, the better that adhesive's gonna stick. So we'll put that one to the side. And every like 6 arrows or so, I'll flip it over and start with a new swab. So let those dry for a few minutes. Rubbing alcohol dries pretty quick, which is another kind of nice thing about it. And then I need a rag. Be right back. So then you want to do the same thing, but to the back of the arrows where you're actually going to have either your wraps or your vanes stick directly to it. That rubbing alcohol is strong down in this little room. You can also, before you actually fletch your vanes, you can take them and run them across the rubbing alcohol too. I haven't really found that to like make that big of a difference, but if you want to do that, you can as well.
So this is a learning process for both you and I. Jeff's done this. How long have you been doing this?
I've been fletching my own arrows probably for, I would say, at least 8 years now.
Your other option would be to buy your arrows pre-fletched or to bring them to an archery shop, correct?
Yeah, this just kind of saves you a little bit of money in the long run. Typically, I know through Black Eagle you can buy just bare shaft, which is what Jordan did here. And it saves you a little bit of money on that end. Yeah, you still have to buy your vanes and stuff, but the nice thing is, if you were to rip one off while you were out shooting, you can just strip all the vanes off, replace them, and keep going instead of just putting that arrow to the side as a useless arrow. So kind of just ends up saving you a little bit of money at the end of the day. One thing I would do if you're going to be serious about it, there are some pretty decent fletching jigs out there. Boning makes a pretty good one for a reasonable price, but I would invest the money if you're going to do this religiously like I do. get the Bitzenberger Dial Fletch. It's like $100, a little bit expensive in the fletching jig world, but just with the right helical, I think it's a 3 degree, very sturdy, super good jig.
I think what I like most about doing this is you rely on yourself completely.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, do I have time to get them over to the archery shop, or do I have the money to buy them pre-fletched? You kind of just do everything on your own.
Yeah, and you can customize them to make them your own. So you're not, you're not shooting the same exact color fletching as every other guy that goes online and buys the same exact arrows. So kind of put your own little twist to it and make them your own.
And we continue.
So next thing we're gonna do, like I said, is we're gonna actually put the inserts in these. You're gonna wanna do this before you shoot your arrows. Even though your glue, your super glues are gonna set up pretty fast, I would give them at least 24 hours before you actually go out and shoot your arrows. But this is just a simple 5-minute epoxy. You can use whatever brand you like or prefer. And you just mix it till it's nice and hot. You probably will have to do this on a dozen arrows. You're probably gonna have to do your epoxy mixture a couple times at least. So another thing I like to do when I'm actually putting the inserts in, I'll take a field point and I'll like half screw it into the insert itself. I just run up one side of the insert, make sure I get a decent amount of glue on there. I'll grab the arrow, and as I put it into the arrow shaft itself, I twist. So I twist the whole arrow up and down. And then you push it in, make sure it seats all the way. Take the tip out, and then I have paper towel handy, and I just wipe off that excess. And then I also take this and just right at the tip of it, just in case some spilled over. And that's one insert. Just leave that alone to let it set up for a little while. All right, now it is time to put on the wrap. I'm just gonna show you guys how to do one. The concept's gonna be the same whether you're using one of these wraps or not. Another thing too that's really cool, if you go on like eBay and search around for these, the guys that you're buying them, like the mom and pop type stuff, they're usually almost always going to throw a couple extra in there. If you were to buy them straight from Boning or a name brand company like that, and you buy 12, they're going to give you 12. But the little mom and pop shops that just sell these, a dozen of them, let's say for $5 on eBay, they usually give you like 12 to 15 of them, so that's kind of cool. But we're gonna do 6 arrows with these. Like I said, I'm just gonna show you guys one so we don't bore you, and then I'm gonna let Jordan do them. So first thing that I like to do, if you guys have them, mouse pads are super, super handy for this. If you don't have a mouse pad, you can also use a somewhat thick magazine, but mouse pad are the tickets. I know that you could probably go to any computer store and find a mouse pad, but let's grab an arrow. All right, there's no real rhyme or reason for any of this. You just kind of get your fingernail dug into the edge. Sometimes they take a minute. If you have his are all white, so if you have a design, make sure you know which way you want that design, whether you want it at the top or the bottom, because you're gonna have to lay this on the side. So just make sure you get that figured out before you do it. But this one's just white, so it's easy. Just unpeel it, lay it down so that the outside is on there and your adhesive side is up. You want to come up off the back of the nock a little bit, and I always just kind of go until I touch it with that corner, and then I bring the rest of the arrow right to it and press kind of into the middle, get it started, then I press that crease down, and then you finish it off. And then I always pick it up and just kind of apply some heat to it. There, one crested arrow. So you just continue to do that same process through as many of these as you want to do. But now we're going to actually fletch this one. So in this Bitzenberger, you're going to have a little notch right here that your nock's actually going to sit right into. I always try to line mine up the same way so that the Black Eagle and whatever arrow you're shooting, the logo is out. So I try to get that lined up. And as this rotates, I always try to be on the, see how it's got a little bit of play in it? I always try to be on the back side of that so that everything's consistent and the same. So he's doing 2 blacks and a white. So this is called your cock feather or your cock vein. So that one generally goes on first. You can use whatever notch in here that you want. I already have mine pre-marked where I like them. So that's where I'm going to put Jordan's. All right, so you put that, your vein, right into where it rests on the shelf here. I always do 5 drops of super glue. And then don't mind the furnace noise. So after you get your 5 drops, I take a toothpick and I go right down the whole vein, make sure everything's covered, and make sure that there's no air bubbles in there. Air bubbles means lack of glue. I already have everything preset, so I don't have to adjust anything right now. And then you just clamp it right down. And then you let it sit and wait for a couple minutes. And a lot of times too, like if you put too much glue on it, it'll start to bust glue out the sides. And if I could see that, which I don't think, yeah, yours isn't. So if it was pushing glue out the sides here, I would just take the toothpick at that point and I would just wipe it down the edge, just to kind of spread it out a little bit.
So you already have yours preset to the angle?
Yeah. Yeah, the angle's already preset. Every arrow shaft's going to be a little bit, not every arrow shaft, but there is a lot of variance in size. And you might have to adjust these knobs back here depending on the diameter of your arrow. Your carnivores and my outlaws are the same diameter, so I don't have to change anything. But you might have to twist this, you know, it might be just off of it a little bit if it's a smaller diameter.
Gotcha.
So you can adjust it, but that process is already done.
So it matters where the knock hits your line and where your first fletching goes.
Yeah. And you can turn these knocks. That's the nice thing. Like once you take this out, your knock won't be lined up exactly with this vein. Okay. But when you clip it onto your bowstring, you can kind of sight down it and turn it to kind of how you want it.
Now are the lighted knocks the same?
Yep. So take that off. Turn it towards you till it clicks. Sit back, come on back side of it. I always put the back side of that vein right on that black line. You could use the tip of the glue for this too, but that makes it really messy. So I just use a toothpick. See how it's squirted out a little bit there?
Yep.
So you can just take your toothpick and smooth that out. This stuff holds, this Gorilla Glue holds really, really good. Pretty boring process.
Are they all soft like that?
Yeah. There are materials that some of them are harder than others, and feathers are always going to be more rigid typically, but they don't hold up as well as these do. Now we start high, and then you want to go till that hits the back there.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like right up against it, and then I just give it a little bit of pressure down on it.
I'm hoping the white sticks out.
Oh, it does. That's probably one of the most popular arrow wraps is all white.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So just like that, and then see you can turn your knock so that it lines up with that.
Oh, gotcha.
And then the last thing that I do with an arrow, and I usually don't do this till I'm completely done, but just for your guys' benefits, is I'll take a little container or paper towel or whatever, and I'll dab a little bit of glue on here, and I'll do what's called tipping and tailing. And all that does is kind of help anchor down the front of each vein, as well as the back. So if you pass through your target or your animal, tipping and tailing your veins really, really help with the strength of them. I do this on every single arrow that I have. But like I said, I usually wait till I'm done them all. That there is Jordan's very first arrow. What do you think of that?
I think it's pretty sweet.
It's really a simple concept, guys, and once you do it a few times, you don't have to go out and spend $100. I think this one here, I can't remember even who makes it. It's made in the US, so that's cool. But that was like $40. It's not great because you're gonna end up getting some glue build up, and it's hard to scrape off with plastic. Again, Boning makes a pretty good one. They make one specific for blazers as well. But once you get into it, you're gonna really want to use a Bitzenberger Fletcher. It is a little bit of a tedious process and a little boring, but like I said, when you're bored, just do a couple arrows at a time or whatever. Customize them, make them your own, and go out and shoot something. Smell us now, lady. If you guys have any questions about this process, what to use or why I'm using things, again, everybody's got their own preference on glues and all that, so that is what it is. Take that with a grain of salt, but If you have any questions on how we're doing this or anything like that, as you'll be able to tell through these videos, we're a bit of do-it-yourselfers. Usually ends up saving us a little bit of money to do things on our own. So
Jeff's a do-it-yourselfer. I am just paying attention.
He's a do-it-yourselfer in training.
That's right.
So either the next video or a couple videos from now, we're going to be setting up Jordan's first bow, which was my old bow.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Oh, also, we can't wait for open water fishing to get here.
Yeah,
so
come on.
It's like middle of February right now. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. But we're ready for the ice to be out and to be on a boat. So
yeah, we need to be on a boat soon.
See ya.